Attack on Titan is arguably one of the best action animes of all time, and with its final season currently airing on Crunchyroll, please sponsor us, we thought this would be the perfect time to take an in-depth look into how this show utilizes one emotion to its fullest: despair. Now, what do we mean when we say it uses despair? For context, let's look at a common cliche in anime. You see your main character in a bad situation. All the odds are starting to pile against them. Suddenly, someone says a passionate speech where the main character has a flashback, and before you know it...
Crap! I was distracted! I won't let you let Coda!
Boom! Epic music cue, epic protagonist power up, and then epic win scene of the protagonist beating the bad guy moment. Fight back! Fight back! Anyone who's watched an anime before knows what we're talking about. And although these moments are indeed awesome at times, Attack on Titan takes a bit of a different approach. Instead of having the protagonist escape these dire situations unscathed and without consequence, here, there's always a price that must be paid.
One of the best uses of despair in the show is in the episode, the 57th Exterior Scouting Regiment Part 3. During the battle, Eren Yeager has to watch all of his fellow comrades get brutally murdered by the female Titan. And this is because of the fact that they're protecting him. And when we say brutally, it's brutal.
Yeah, boy.
You get what we're saying. As Eren watches all of this, he feels guilty and comes to the conclusion that he can turn into a Titan right there and fight the female Titan on his own and potentially save his fellow soldiers' lives. As he's about to, Eren gets an ultimatum from Captain Levi Ackerman.
俺にはわからない。ずっとそうだ。自分の力を信じても、信頼に至る仲間の選択を信じても、結果は誰にもわからなかった。
The biggest difference between Attack on Titan and other animes is this advice. That's because it can be used in two very different ways with different end results and interpretations. Result 1 is what most cliche animes go for. Are you going to be selfish and arrogant by believing that only you can defeat this evil, all the while sabotaging what the team had originally planned because it's beneath you? This is usually used to put what the protagonist sees into perspective and make it so they choose the power of teamwork over themselves. This result ends up with the protagonist coming out on top, because in times of crisis, they trusted friendship and camaraderie over their own personal abilities. However, as we all know, that's not exactly what ends up happening, which leads directly to interpretation 2. Captain Levi's advice to Eren was simply straightforward advice. Had Eren chose to go on defensive at that moment, there was a high chance of victory, and we see this push forward later on by seeing many different groups of people get very close to subduing the female Titan on their own. Had two, or better yet, all three of these powers work together from the start, it's hard to imagine a world where the female Titan still comes out on top. All of this directly ties into despair because of the show's format. As you watch each of these individual events and see the female Titan barely manage to prevail, your mind drifts to Levi's original speech, and you think, no, they were so close to beating her. If only they had worked together from the start. And these thoughts you have all help increase the amount of despair building up throughout the episode. It also helps balance the feelings of overwhelming victory present in other animes. You get to see Levi kick Annie's ass and rescue Eren, which is awesome, but that now comes at the cost of failing the original mission and having all those people die for nothing. So instead of feeling happy that your favorite characters got away in the end, you feel despair.
Another excellent example of this is in the episode Scream, during which Erwin and the Scout Regiment are attempting to rescue Eren from Berthold and Reiner. The rescue mission turns south almost instantly, with a snowball of events occurring, one more horrible than the last. First, Commander Erwin gets ripped from his horse, with the audience presuming him to be killed in the battle. From there, the squad continues to systematically get wiped out by the oncoming Titans. Oh, but it doesn't just stop there. We then see our other main characters attempting to flee with Eren as they get battered by the Titans, with Armin getting stuck on the ground trying to defend Jean from the oncoming horde as more and more scouts get slaughtered all around them. And to make the situation even worse, Eren and Mikasa find themselves face to face with the very same Titan that killed Eren's mom. With Eren unable to transform, it looks hopeless, when suddenly Hans appears and attempts to fend off the smiling Titan, vowing to avenge Eren's mom. Now, as the viewer, I genuinely thought that he was going to find some newly found strength and win, but then I was brutally reminded that the world doesn't work like that here. This is Attack on Titan after all. Any other anime would have had Hans win, or had Eren transform at the last minute to save him, but no. Eren and Mikasa are helpless to watch as their childhood friend gets eaten alive. As the viewer, you are left with a horrible sinking feeling that can only be summarized as despair. It is only then, when all hope feels lost, when we have no possible idea as to how they'll escape the situation, does Eren find that newfound strength that allows him to defeat the Titan. Normally, an anime would attempt to surprise the audience by having the main character lose the battle for once, but here, the show surprises you when it lets our characters win. I haven't seen this kind of raw, consequential storytelling since the first few seasons of Game of Thrones. Having moments like this cements the very concept of consequence. It hammers home that idea that no one is safe, and that every victory comes with a price. Pushing the audience to the brink of despair like this makes you cling to the tiny slivers of hope that are given. Whenever our characters manage to climb out of a hopeless situation like this, it feels much more rewarding because they exist in a world where victory against Titans is rarer than gold. And when they don't win, and they fail, you believe it, because it makes sense in the context of that universe. It's easy to write a story in which your characters find the strength necessary to get out of any or all situations. But what happens when their strength fails them? What happens when they lose? What happens when humanity loses? That's what we get to see in the show. We get to see our heroes fail. The last example is one that pains me, like it physically hurts. The last example is in the infamous episode Hero. This is the episode that truly made me realize just how amazing this show is. This episode has it all: self-sacrifice, meaningful character moments, and one of the best fights in the entire series. At this point in the episode, the mission to reclaim Wall Maria has gone terribly wrong. Big shocker. And Erwin and Levi, after much contemplation, decide that the only way that they can win is to sacrifice the recruits to a death charge, as Levi attempts to sneak in from the side and take out the Beast Titan. We feel helpless as we watch the recruits charge blindly into battle, shouting battle cries as they attempt to hide the fear of death that they know is incoming. And normally, I'd chastise such a reckless and senseless sacrifice to soldiers, but as a viewer, you see no other way out of the situation. At this point of the episode, they thought that Eren was out of commission, and for all they knew, the Colossal Titan wiped out Levi's squad on the other side of the wall. As wave after wave of soldiers get decimated, we pause for just a moment on Marlowe as we see in his final inner thoughts before his impending doom. We see as he thinks about the choices he's made that lead him there, and about the people he's leaving behind, before he's torn to pieces by the shrapnel. Again, I reiterate my point, that if this was any other traditional anime, Marlowe would have found a way to escape the situation or miraculously survive. The show didn't need to include this moment on screen, but they do, and by showing his fears and worries in this single moment, it helps humanize him and every other soldier we see die around him. And here, the victory was earned at the sacrifice of the lives and hearts of 200 scouts. I mean, they still had hearts. They were just splattered all over the... Anyways, this ends with the lone survivor of the massacre being none other than Floch of all people. Floch of all people. The show proves that in this world, death is as random as it is real. There are so many shows in which victory is rarely a question, but a given. It's never, oh, I wonder how Goku's gonna get out of the situation, and more of a, oh, I wonder when Goku will take a new form and get out of the situation. Attack on Titan shows us the cost of our failures. And of our victories. More importantly, it shows us that despair, and all its pain and misery, doesn't have to be a constant. That it's possible to break free from the trials and tribulations of failure and loss, and to emerge from the other side even stronger. Those fleeting moments of hope feel much more valuable and impactful in a world like this, and have twice the impact because of it.